Do you know this song? It's so good. It's so good.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. And all my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
That is Jen Johnson, and that song, I mean, the first time I heard that song, probably a year or two ago, it's the kind of song you just fall in love with the first time you hear it. So, this video for me today on my channel, I just wanted to share some of the goodness of God in my life. I just want to brag on God for a little bit today. So, I just wanted to share that for the past 3 years, and it took me a long time to get here, but for the past 3 years, just over 3 years, I have been in a really good place, the best place I've ever been in my life. My days are normal. Normal. I get up, I go to work, I come home, I do some home things. I'll hop on Facebook, hop on YouTube. I'm doing a Revelation study. I just do my days. And the majority of my life at this time is just living. I'm not struggling. I'm not striving. I'm not having to do my day with a heartache. I've just been so blessed. I've never lived like this. Now, the years that I was raising my kids, especially when they were little, and into middle school, I loved raising my kids and loved that I was going to say have 2 kids, and I'm so grateful for that. But I had so much stress and pressure on me because I don't make a lot of money, and I was having to support my kids, 3 people on my income. And so I live pretty much check to check and have driven old cars. I did buy my van, but I'm still driving one of my old cars. The other 2 we donated, my daughter's 2000 Honda and my 2002 Saturn Vue to Teen Challenge. And so, but I am still driving my Kia, my 2004 Kia, and because it saves miles on my van, I want to save my van for adventures. But I do have a backup vehicle because the Kia is a 2004, and it looks a little rough and it drives a little rough. Let's just put it that way. But I feel so blessed to be in this stage of life and to be healed and whole, and my walk with God is better than it's ever been, and my kids are good. I'm going to go into my what's going on with my kids in a minute and just share a little bit about that. But I wanted to play another minute of this song.
I love your voice. You will lead me through the fire, and in darkest night, you were close like no other. I know you as a father. I've known you as a friend, and I have lived
want to share just a little bit about that. She sings, I've known you as a father and I've known you as a friend. My dad was not a good dad. My dad was not a good person. My dad got saved the last week of his life. He died at 70. And he got saved a week before he passed, which is so amazing. I have no relationship with my dad. I have no good memories with my dad. I have many bad memories with my dad, towards myself, towards my siblings, that whole thing. But I don't want the devil to win in anyone's life, including my dad's. And so I was so grateful when he got saved, a week before he passed at age 70. And there's a whole story there. Perhaps I'll share that another time. But so I've never had a dad, and I don't know what it's like to have a dad. And I have the same thing with my son. I was married for, do you know that I honestly don't even know exactly how many years I was married, because I was like so checked out and so struggling. I just struggled so bad. People will say, how long were you married? I'm like, was it 12 years? Was it 13 years? Towards the end, I was so absolutely depleted that I honestly don't know for sure how long I was married. I think it was almost 13 years. Anyway, and he is my covenant spouse, but I tend to refer to him as my ex. But he is my covenant spouse. I'm in covenant with him. And he is not a father to our son. He's not even that great of a dad to our daughter, but he's better. He favors her over our son. We've got a whole ugly dynamic going on there, and it's been going on for a long time. So, but I have prayed for myself, and I have prayed for my son, that God would be a father to the fatherless, for me, and watch over me and protect me in my journey, and then also to heal and protect and bless my son in his journey through life. And my son has been covered in so many ways. I say my son, it's our son, but I felt like I never had any help. Well, I didn't have any help parenting. And so when I say my son, but it is our son, that I know how troubled boys are when their father abandons them. And it's a really hard thing. I think it's hard for any child. I think it's hard for daughters, but it seems really hard for boys and men when their dad has abandoned them, or they never knew their dad at all. They're not even sure who he is, that sort of thing. And I didn't want that for my son. I wanted my son to, he's dealing already with a medical condition, a physical disability. He's got serious allergies that if, with dairy and egg, particularly dairy, that if he were to accidentally ingest a dairy product, he would he would experience anaphylactic shock. So it's one of the serious allergies, just like peanuts and bee stings and things like that. For him, it's dairy. So, and it also limits what he can eat, because there's dairy like cheese and sour cream and, cream and mushroom soup and all kinds of dairy products in just about everything. So anyway, we're pretty good at that by now, but that was a challenge in the beginning too, finding things he could eat. And, but God has been so good to my son and has covered him and protected him in so many ways. My son did not have to deal with bullying, which I thought he might have to when he was, especially in middle school. Not so much elementary. Well, maybe elementary now, but when my kid was in elementary, it wasn't that way. I think everything is just so difficult, and maybe hateful, difficult now for people. But when my son was in elementary, it was fine. And he didn't have any problem with anybody making fun of him or mocking, the way he uses his body. But I thought maybe in middle school. Middle school is where the 5 or 6 elementaries merge in the middle school. And there would be like 5 schools of kids that don't know my son. And maybe they wouldn't know him as a person. They hadn't grown up with him. And so what happens when that happens is that usually something like a physical impairment would then stand out first. Well, there was one boy that made fun of him when he was in 7th grade, and he had a hard time with that. But it was very short-lived, because I can tell you, I would not let my son go to school every day and have to feel that sick feeling, that anxious feeling that people feel when they're going into a potentially abusive situation. I would have taken him out of school. And people will say, how can you do that? It's hard to change schools, and I have to work and everything. I would have taken, period, end of conversation. I would have taken my son out of school, period. So I would have figured it out. I'm not going to have my son being tortured. So, meaning tortured emotionally. And so, but that only happened once. And I said, hey, let me know how it goes. And if this continues, we're going to make a change. We're going to make a change. And he knows me and was very confident in the fact that if this didn't end, it was probably a couple weeks in middle school in 7th grade. And then it just passed, and there's been essentially nothing. There's been an occasional incident of somebody mocking his walk a few times, and that was it. And that's when he was younger. You probably wouldn't even notice anything today now that he's grown. So anyway, he also has a shunt. He's had the same shunt that was placed at 8.5 months old. He has a cyst in his brain, in the center of his brain. It is shunted. The shunt is a catheter system that is in the brain, and then the catheter tubing goes down behind the ear, down the neck, and then down and is looped in his abdominal cavity. He has had the same shunt for 24 years, because he's at the half mark of his 24th year. With his February birthday. So yeah, it's been 24 years. And the shunt was placed October 13th, 1997. So yeah, that's a miracle. And it's a miracle. If you know anyone with hydrocephalus, they don't live, most of them don't live as well, as pain-free, as surgery-free, as my son has. It's absolutely amazing. So that's God's hand over him. I am believing for healing for my son. I want complete healing for him. And that has not come in yet, but God has so covered his life. Nicholas had seizures when he was younger, between the ages of 5 and 8. I believe it was 3 to 5. I think he had seizures. I was just remembered because it was about a week after I had my daughter, and they're 3 years and 10 days apart. They both have February birthdays. And so, and he had about 8 seizures in like a 3-year time period, 3, 4, and 5, I think it was. And then nothing. And I thought possibly in the teen years, when there's so much growth, that maybe he would experience seizures again. Never did. Never did. Now, I was always somewhat fearful back in those days. I so love that song. When my screen goes dark, I have to bump my key to light it back up, and there's the song. So there's that. Then my son did not graduate from high school. He dropped out 3 times, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So he dropped in 10th, went back in 11th, dropped in 11th, went back in 12th, and dropped again. And so he did not graduate. And that's a whole story, and that was a whole deal besides. But he will have to get his GED. He's just been real hesitant because school's always been, not in elementary. I mean, yeah, we had battles at the kitchen table trying to get him to do his homework. we, that's him and I. Again, I never had like a day of help. I never had a minute of help. But with his homework and stuff. So, but at least, and then middle school, he got more independent with his homework. And then in 9th grade, he just really flatlined. As far as school, he accomplished nothing. So, yes, he will have to get his GED. He just recently got a different job. He was working overnights at a grocery store doing stock. And it was about 3 or 4 months ago now that he started at UPS. And so he's been working there. And about 2 months after being at UPS, he was promoted to manager. So, and he got a pay increase. So he went from, he was making about $14 an hour at Cub. He is now making $10 more than that per hour as a manager at UPS. This is so wonderful. He saved money. He had about $16,000. Got him a Honda Accord 2014. We didn't go new. Just the 2014. It's really pretty metallic gray. And so he's got a newer car. He was driving my old cars. And we've just gone through the biggest change here. And I just see the Lord's hand and blessing all over this child. So, between his health being covered, he's always had friends. He's had the same circle of friends since elementary. Now he's had this big, huge breakthrough regarding his job and his income. And it's so awesome. So both, my daughter's a dental assistant. She did a couple years of education after high school. She sailed through school, sailed and shined through all of her education and then also her program after. So, which was really helpful for me because when you get a kid that battles school, at least I had one that it was smooth sailing. Thank you, Jesus. So, a mom can only take so much. So, but God has blessed my daughter in every way. She's so good. She graduated with honors. She's a naturally good student. She's naturally disciplined. She is so organized. Nicholas, not so much. But they are both blessed. And it's so wonderful to see this. And I just keep praying and praying for God to touch their heart and draw them into the kingdom. My kids know about God, but have they accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior? No. Nicholas has twice, when he was in 10th and then also a senior. But he never followed through in his walk with God. So, I'm so grateful. I am so absolutely grateful for what God is doing in my life and, showing me the narrow path and also showing me all the corruption behind the scenes in our government so that I would not follow the world system and what's going on. And then also just the narrow path, like regarding adulterous remarriages. I've shared that I thought I could remarry. I cannot. I'm in covenant with my ex. And so I just feel so completely blessed by God regarding me and my children and my home and my 2 dogs. I want to show you one more thing. I want to play just a little bit of this song. He has been faithful. Ah. Makes me cry. I got a few tears on that one. They're still right here. I just feel so completely blessed, and to be able to live like I have been living for 3 years, just over 3 years now. And my job is a blessing too. It is. My health is a blessing. I don't carry insurance at my job, and I haven't at previous jobs because I can't afford everything and carry insurance. Insurance is usually, $200 each pay period, 200 plus, which is 400 and some a month. I couldn't afford that. So I don't carry insurance. Yeah, and God has just protected me. I have one more thing I want to show you because I'm running out of time. Oh, and then my phone closed up. Hang on one second. I want to show you this guy. This is a horse that I met. Long story. I was on a walk with my dogs, came across, there was actually 4 Frisian horses. The owners have had to rehome back to a previous owner, so that's really good. The other 3 horses. And this guy, I go see him once a weekend. I cut up an apple, and I go see him once a weekend. He is so beautiful. You can see the red barn behind him. This guy is just another source